Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to your weekly astrological weather. This is your place to get practical guidance for not only navigating, but thriving with the cosmic tides. My name's Amanda Walsh. I'm the founder of Astrology Hub, and I am so happy to be here with all of you, our beautiful Astrology Hub community. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, such a pleasure to be here with your favorite astrological weather woman, predictive astrologer Anne Ortelee, who is also a birthday girl.
I am. Yesterday was my birthday. Yay.
Yesterday was Anne's birthday. Was it yesterday or the day before?
The 11th.
The 11th.
Saturday.
It's just been one big...
I'm off on days. I don't even know what day it is.
It's one big birthday weekend. Okay, I'm going to embarrass myself. I didn't tell you I was going to do this.
Okay.
But I used to work at Tony Roma's. Do you remember that? When I was a teenager.
I love that restaurant. Yeah.
Yes, I was a hostess there, and all three of my brothers worked there, and we had the birthday song that we would do for every day.
Everybody, you're going to sing for me?
I'm going to do it. I was like, I'm just going to embarrass myself, but I'm going to do it because, Anne, you're worth it. Okay, ready?
Oh, thank you.
If any of you know this song, please sing along with me. Okay, and if you don't know it, you can clap like everybody at the table does. Yes, exactly. Ready? Okay. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Do we have a birthday here? Yes, we have a birthday here. Birthday where? Birthday here. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
Yay, wonderful job. I love it.
Thank you.
That is your Saturn in Leo. You're good.
Thank you. I had lots of practice.
Yeah.
I think we did that every single night in our like bright pink polo shirts with Tony Roma's right here. Yeah. And
cool.
Just giving thanks for you and your life and just celebrating you and everything that you have done in your life, everything that you are, and your decision to be here with us. I'm just so grateful. So thank you for being born. Thank you for being here with us. And thank you for shining your light so brightly and just being on your path and sharing that with all of us. Like, we're so lucky. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, you always look at the birth story. So we got a little feedback there, Jamie. You always look at the birth story, right? And so when I was born, I was late. My father he was a doctor. He was an OBGYN, July and August. I'm in the graduation pictures from medical school. And it was a party. It was a Saturday, and my mother went into labor, and she left the party and went into the hospital. And Dr. Geary came dressed up as a pregnant lady screaming. And my mother had been a nurse, or was a nurse, and she was like, oh my God, I got a screamer in the bed next to me, right? So there was a little practical joke energy there, right? And then I go into the delivery room, and now my father's not allowed to deliver. He signed up for OBGYN in July and August, but the doctor's there. Come on, Mark, you can help. The room is lined with interns because it was the first baby born to the residency, the intern guys. So I was born into a party of doctors, right? Or baby doctors, they were doing their internship. And as I was coming out, my father said, stop. Let's make a bet, boy or girl. And they bet boy. My father bet a boy. And I was a girl. And so his comment was, the first thing you did was cost me money.
Oh my gosh.
And I have a Venus-Saturn aspect in the 8th house.
Wow.
So it describes my chart. Parties, groups, doing 8th house things, hopefully helping people learn 8th house stuff and do not bet if you don't know the outcome.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And teaching, right? Because there were a bunch of students in there learning. So that
they're
was
all
your
in there
first teaching moment.
Yeah. My Jupiter, my ruler of my ascendant is Aquarius. It's conjunct Jupiter, Uranus in the 6th house of working, and Sag midheaven is teaching. So they were teaching me. And of course, my father's in there with a camera.
Oh my gosh.
And my mother would never let him show me the pictures. She'd go, well, when you're 18, well, when you're 21, well, when you're whatever.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to show me the pictures of me coming out, but he's in there clicking away too.
Oh my God.
And of course, that's the Venus, Saturn trying the moon in the first. So my arrival was photographed, even though Saturn, Venus, I never saw the pictures because my mother wouldn't let it happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Your birth your arrival on Earth is described by your ascendant, and it's how you begin everything. So you started this podcast with, okay, everybody sing. And off we go. Yeah.
It's just like your birthday. I love your real birthday. Yes. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, Anne. Very happy to be celebrating you today. And also happy to be celebrating the big success of the Goddess and Other Asteroids workshop that we had part 1 of last week. And then the Q&A is today. We have part 2 this week, and then Q&A next Monday. If you missed it, it is not too late to jump in. You'll have access to the recordings of part 1. You'll have access to the recordings of the Q&A today. And then you'll be ready for the live workshop on Thursday. Again, if you can't make it live, you'll get the recordings. But I wanted to read one testimony that came in for this course. This came in today, and I'm not going to say the name, but she says, I just want to thank you for bringing the asteroid course to us. In one weekend, it has transformed me. More than 4 years of studying psychology and 25 years of studying astrology has managed to do. It was like lifetimes of therapy sessions in one dream. I feel as if one weekend with the asteroids has freed me from the shackles of many lifetimes. I feel as if I have been reborn, and you are my midwife. Thank you.
And we just talked about me having my birthday arrive.
Yes,
right?
we did. Yeah. So this is like one of the interns in the room who was learning so much from you.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, we've had boatloads of feedback like that coming in, and I just chose that one. And it was actually much longer. I paraphrased it. But people just feeling so grateful for what they've been able to learn. So if you want to jump into Goddesses and Other Asteroids and get this other layer of your chart that sometimes is really overlooked in astrology.
It is.
Not all astrologers choose to focus on it, and that's okay. They're focused on the things they're focused on.
Everybody has their path. Yeah.
Yes. But this does definitely give you another overlay through which to look at the chart. So you can go to astrologyhub.com/asteroids. That's astrologyhub.com/asteroids. And is there anything you want to add to that before we dive into the weather?
I would say, we know that people go asteroids. It's like I have a friend out in Cleveland, and he goes planetary dust, and I'm like, you're an Aries. You like to argue with Virgos. What can I say? He's actually born right by Rick Levine, so Rick Levine always argues with me. So does this guy, Richard Smoot. Not in a mean way, just like planetary dust. But planetary dust is important. You get dust in your eye, you really notice it. And it also is archetypes. These are the universal archetypes. So Carl Jung, in his studies, looking at astrology, he cast charts for all his patients. His daughter was actually a famous astrologer. And he looked at it and he said, astrology is a psychology. And so when you look at the archetypes of the gods and the goddesses that your planets hang out with, because that's what we look at, is you have all these asteroids out there, but which are the important ones for you? Those are the ones that touch your planets and make them go, oh, in addition to being Saturn in whatever sign I'm in, I'm also bringing in the mythology of this energy. And when people find it, they get very excited. So somebody wrote me and said, I've been having this power struggle with my neighbor over the territory and the land. And don't I have the asteroid about territory and land governing tomato plants? I had to clean up the tomato plant. I was laughing. It was a really cute email, but she was like territorial. I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. It was on my Pluto. So I was obsessed with it. I'm like, but it gives you this, what you resonate to, what your story is you tell yourself. And it's right there to the woman that wrote you that, like, oh my God, I didn't realize there were all these extra layers of story connected to my soul.
Wow.
And when she said past lives, it resonates with some story that we have to work with. And so it's really, it's a really powerful thing to add in. And it also gives a lot of, kind of a crystalline point. We always think of planets as really characterizing things, and it crystallizes them. And again, when people go, oh, 1 of 12 Virgos, you're like, no, this is not only that level, but it's even a more refined level of who you are, which of course, as a Virgo, I love because it's like, big picture, next picture down, layered picture. So this week, when we do the archetype, we do the actual, how do you work with them? I think people will really find it interesting because I picked charts of famous people and I just did their 4 asteroids. And so we're going to go through those slides and you're going to be like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my,
Wow.
because it's very powerful. Just, you don't have to look at even the planets. You just look at their 4, we're just doing the 4 goddesses, the big ones, and what their message is about that person's purpose on earth. It's kind of cool. So I would totally encourage and you know, astound your friends and astound yourself like that woman that wrote to you did. Yeah. So.
Yes. Awesome. Okay. It's not too late. You can still join us. astrologyhub.com/asteroids. And even if you're like, I want that class, but I'm not going to be able to get to it for a few weeks, that's fine. You'll have all the recordings. You'll have all the transcripts, the slides, all the PDF sheets that we create with the courses available for you. So, all right. And let's dive into the weather. What do we have going this week?
Well, last Friday we had Venus go into Scorpio, right? And she's going to be in Scorpio through the end of the month. And when she goes into Scorpio, you know, she leaves her rulership, Libra, which she likes, and she goes into Scorpio. And I always, I have Venus in Scorpio, so I can say mean things about it. It's Glenn Close and Fatal Attraction. It's hot sex in the elevator, but it's also, she can boil your bunny. And it also is Kathy Bates in Misery. And I love the Kathy Bates story because she was, when she dates people, they all, you know, invariably someone says to her, well, did you see her in Misery? And so they'll bring it up to her and she goes, oh, you didn't see me in Misery? And they're like, no. And she's like, you probably don't want to watch that movie. And then, of course, you know, curiosity kills the cat. They go off and watch the movie. And she can always tell when they've watched the movie because the character in there captures James Caan and you dirty bird, you know, and it's such a Venus and Scorpio thing. And even if you don't like that, looking at her in Fried Green Tomatoes, when she drives the car into the girl's car, she goes, yeah, I have insurance, you know? So Venus went into Scorpio. We're going to watch the passions rise, not necessarily in an easy way. Venus is running all the Libra planets and the Taurus planets. So Uranus is in Taurus acting to Venus in Scorpio, right? So Uranus suddenly, and he's on a world point, suddenly he got a little mad and you mailed me pictures of people rioting in Greece. And I'm like, well, it's Venus and Scorpio. And it's also, there's a lot of Neptune. There's Mars, Neptune, there's Sun, Neptune. So they're using fire hoses and tear gas, which is Neptune. But Uranus turned into a Scorpio feel just for the month. But when he goes Scorpio on you, you go, whoa, Uranus, you're a little Scorpio. Mars in Libra, peace, happiness, nice. He's answering to Venus. He's like, all right, let's talk about stuff. Suddenly Mars is turned into an assassin. And then Mercury, also in Libra. He's going, well, he's in his retrograde shadow. He's like, I'm going to tell you some secrets. So we released documents from the Saudi, you know, redacted certainly, but released on 9/11 about the Saudis' role in. And of course, Michael Moore, Friday night, ran Fahrenheit 9/11 for free, worldwide copy. It's up for a few days. And of course, he was hammered when that documentary got released. But he tells a story in it that Quentin Tarantino was the judge at Cannes, and they gave him the award. And Quentin came over to him and said, I have never voted in my life. I am going home to vote. I'm going to go home and register to vote based on that movie. And then he brings the mothers. There's 2 mothers in the movie. There's a mother that loses her child and cries and seems. And then there's a mother who loses her son, who's a soldier, and cries. And it's these 2 mothers, Venus and Scorpio, losing their children. So there, you know, there's a couple scenes in there where I was just sitting here. I watched it Friday night, just sitting crying away because this mother, these mothers, 2 mothers, lost their children in that role. There's a statue I'm up from upstate. Syracuse has, when the flight came over Lockerbie and crashed, there were a number of students from Syracuse University on that plane. And there is a statue on Syracuse University's campus reenacting the mothers' reactions when they found out their children had died. And so whether they're like, oh my God, what they fell to the ground, whatever they did, there's all these different mothers reacting to the news of the loss of the child. And so it's a very powerful Venus in Scorpio is very powerful in her intensity. So we're entering a very, and I just want to warn people, it's very intense this next couple weeks, because Venus is in charge, and she's in charge of Mercury, telling the secrets, releasing the stories, telling you things you maybe didn't want to hear. She's in charge of Mars in Libra, and he and Venus can swap places, so he can be in Scorpio, she can be in Libra, and she can go very nicely, well, let me just tell you what's been going on behind the scenes that you didn't know about. And then Uranus in Taurus, which is now he's in Scorpio, he's answering to Venus in Scorpio, so she went from being polite into not so much. And so it's a really interesting shift. And when this kind of stuff happens, I always encourage people to go, like, why am I suddenly so annoyed? Well, Venus is in Scorpio. How you feeling like Glenn Close when she found out he wasn't leaving the wife for her, and she went after the kid's bunny. I mean, it's very, or when Kathy Bates' character found out James Caan had killed off Misery and was letting her die, and she's like a Misery fan. So we had J-Lo attacked at an airport, and Ben Affleck went, whoa, stop, right? We actually literally had one of our goddesses, who's a pretty hot goddess. She's certainly a Venus and Scorpio kind of girl. And the fan came up, and Ben stopped him, and then the guards came in and got him. So it's this very intense, passionate energy. And, depending on how you feel about that, it can go, hot sex in the elevator with Glenn Close. Remember that scene with Michael or Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct? Again, a Venus in Scorpio. And then also intense or triangulating. So I had somebody call very upset because somebody told them something. I said, well, does it actually sound like something that person would have said? No. I'm like, well, maybe you want to check with them. Maybe you're getting this news to get you mad because Mercury's in his shadow, so he's playing tricks on us. And what's the motivation of the person telling you that mean stuff anyway? She hadn't thought about the motivation of the person telling her the mean stuff. Widen horizons. Now, with Sun opposite Neptune this week, we can get tricked. But when you get tricked and somebody says to you, well, widen your horizons, why do you think they did it? Then that's the question to ask. Why do you think they did it? What do you think the origin story was? And of course, Venus went into Scorpio Friday afternoon, and Michael Moore showed this movie. So I'm like, oh, Venus and Scorpio, what are the motivations? Like, Scorpio is always about money and power and secrets and dynamics, and we have to kind of honor it. And I don't know how it's 20 years since 9/11 happened, but it is. And it was what made me become an astrologer, because I was a little wimpy Virgo going, well, a little more money in the bank, and and then I'll be an astrologer. And then when my office blew up, I'm like, all right, you can't go to work anymore. Go be an astrologer, you little wimp. And that was 20 years ago. And so that was the forward motion for me, doing astrology full time. So, we watch this energy. It comes in. It's not a storm cloud. It's an emotional cloud. And remember, when we're emotionally clear on things or emotionally upset, if we and it's Scorpio, so it's got some psychological components too. We're going to delve into it and go, well, what is actually this about? And if we can do that dive, that helps a lot. Because remember, we're going towards the full moon, right? Which is going to be in Virgo Pisces. Pisces always sees the soul. Virgo always sees how it can fix things. So this is definitely fixable. And of course, when we name a problem, we can claim a problem, we can work on a problem, we can solve a problem. So there's a very lovely energy resting underneath the swamp. But we might feel a little bit like, oh my goodness, what? And that's important, right? So.
Okay. So Anne, you're saying that because Venus went into Scorpio and Mercury, Mars, and Uranus are all
in Libra,
in Venus ruled signs. So now they're all answering to Venus in Scorpio.
And somebody wrote me and said, when you say answering to, what does that mean?
Right.
And I went reporting to. But I don't really like to say reporting to. I think of it as, you're not my boss, but I have to ask you permission.
Right.
Or I have to go and say, hey, what do you think about this? And they say this, and you go, okay, I hear you. I'm going to answer to you. I'm going to take your advice into consideration.
So it's coloring everything. So the
Yeah.
Venus in Scorpio is coloring all the energy of those three planets, Mercury, Mars, and Uranus, which is a big deal because those are big ones. And with Mercury, this could mean, what you're saying is it can mean like secrets coming up from the depths, right? Mars, you're saying, Mars and Libra is usually like a
Very
little more
polite.
thoughtful. Yeah, polite.
He's a he's a general, but he has to go to tea with the queen. Got his muddy boots on, and he's like, do I have to change my boots? Well, you have to wash them off. You can't go and have tea with the queen with muddy boots,
right?
So it's a guy going in camouflage to to the tea with the queen, and he's kind of like, all right, well, queen's okay. Queen's okay with me wearing mud on my boots. Right. Venus is in Scorpio. She goes, oh, did you just come from war? He's like, I did.
And but now that Venus is in Scorpio, it's a little sharper. Like you said, the assassin kind of energy, or like the executioner, like it's a little sharper than it would normally be. Yeah. Okay.
So if you think of very scorpionic, like Dangerous Liaison, or the Glenn Close and Fatal Attraction, or those movies where the woman, and then there's this conversion, right? So it's this looks good, but then there's this underbelly that's intense.
There's something deeper. So anything that's coming up in our lives, it's like, don't take it at face value, like what it appears to be. Actually ask those probing questions and go underneath it. One of the things that you brought up, I mean, some of the qualities you brought up were like territorial, jealousy, that deep, dark Eros kind of thing. And one of the examples you gave was of the triage with the woman, someone telling her something that someone else said. And what it sounds to me is
Venus is triples. It's
triples.
Well, Scorpio is an egg and a sperm get together and make a baby. Tomato and lettuce get chopped up and make a salad. They can't go back; they go forward. So there's a transformational quality when they get together, and they're both transformed. But there's also an ending. There's also some kind of, remember, Scorpio time in the northern hemisphere is when everything has the killing frost and dies.
Right, we're letting go. We're letting go.
Leaves are falling off the trees. Yeah.
The example you gave of the woman, what sounds to me is there was a emotional response. She got hooked somewhere. Like they hit, whatever was said, hit some sort of chord or nerve in her. She got emotionally triggered and didn't even question, like, would that person really say that? That doesn't really, and why is this person telling me that? So I think one of the things I'm hearing is watching where that like hook that in us is. And instead of, that doesn't mean it's bad or wrong. It's actually an opportunity for us to do the psychological work that you talked about and go deeper underneath it and go, what's this really bringing up for me? Because it's probably not about the thing that it seems like it's about.
No, that's the surface level. That's the Libra level.
Right.
Remember, Libra gets a lot of times they get accused of being passive aggressive. They want something, but they set it up in a way that you kind of look at and go, well, why weren't they just direct?
Right.
But with Scorpio ruling that now it's got a little more aggression to it. It's you're kind of like, oh, they're really aggressive there. Okay. So it adds a little bit of the sting of the Scorpion to it.
Right. Yeah.
Now remember, Scorpio has 5 glyphs. He's not just the Scorpion. He's the snake that sheds its skin. He's the dove of peace after war. But it could be like that movie where the doves got released at the aliens and they thought we were getting attacked and they killed us, right? So the eagle flying at 20,000 feet. If he's not hungry, he doesn't kill the bunny, but he sees the bunny.
Right.
And the phoenix who gets immolated and turned to ashes and then rebirths.
So it sounds like really embracing the alchemical transformative process.
Yes.
And almost inviting it, being okay with it coming into our lives, seeing that those are all opportunities for us to transform something that's really deeply ingrained in us. And when we actually do that, there's so much freedom and peace. So the freedom of the eagle soaring, peace of the dove, that's all ours if we're willing to go into those depths.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're also saying something about naming, working, and solving problems. So that's with the upcoming. Is the full moon? It's not this week, is it?
Full moon's Monday next week.
So we'll be talking about.
We're in the growth phase towards it, right? So when we're in the I always think expanding is going towards the full moon. Narrowing is waning. So we're in a waxing phase. Waning is narrow. So when we're in a waxing phase, we're growing in knowledge and wisdom. And remember, that new moon in Virgo is very powerful because it trined Uranus and Mars trined Pluto. So that new moon that we had, a week and a half ago was like, oh, wow, you really want to get the work done. And so you're like, okay, I'm going to get the work done. And then you're going to run into people that go, no. And then you're going to have to figure out how do I get around you? Or do I want to work with you? Or do I want to just kind of dart around you and do something else? Mm-hmm. So that's your choice. Like, how am I going to deal with Mercury retrograde saying, because she's Mercury in Libra says, well, there's parts you haven't looked at yet, because he's going to be retrograde through the end of November. Through November 7th. So we're going to have a retrograde. He's going to station at 24 and be retrograde most of October. And then he's going to go direct. So Mercury always brings us messages, but right now he's bringing us messages from Venus and Scorpio. So he's releasing documents about the Saudi arraignment redacted. That's that energy, like, well, I'll tell you, but I'm going to not tell you everything. Mm-hmm. And then you have to go, detective time. What's my little watch for your little inner private detective to pop up.
My girls are obsessed with Nancy Drew. So it just, last night we were singing the song, we listened to the audiobooks. Mm-hmm. So we got to tap into that inner Nancy Drew, who just stumbles upon mysteries to solve everywhere she goes.
And then she goes, now what does that mean?
Right. Yes.
It's also your inner Anna Lansbury, Murder, She Wrote. There's a murder. Cabot's Cove had a lot of murders, but she always solved them. Right?
What I like about that too is there's always an adventure with the detective. There's always an adventure. There's things you don't know yet, and you're putting together the pieces of the puzzle. And I think that's helpful for all of us right now. It's like, if we think we know, we can pretty much be sure that there's other pieces of the puzzle that are going to continue to reveal themselves. So we don't have to hold on so tightly to, oh, I know this is what's happening, because there's still a lot more information to come. So if we keep that open-minded sort of detective, like, ooh, we're solving the problem or the mystery, then there's a lightness we can bring to it. And there's that sense of adventure we can bring to it, which I know isn't always easy to tap into, but when we do, it shifts the energy. It's like, ooh, I don't know. And ooh, it seems like the scary monster is going to win the game here, but we're still in the unfolding story.
Yes. Yeah. And also Venus in Scorpio is the deathbed confession, where I'm dying and I confess. Whoa. And you go, oh, what'd you confess? Or that, that reveal, you open up, you find the secrets, remember Nancy Drew, the secret of the clock. The secret of the Black Widow. I was a huge Nancy Drew fan.
Yes.
And she always was smart. She had her red roadster. She had her boyfriend Nick or Ned. Nick, and her father was a lawyer, so she would ponder things with him. So that's Libra. She would go and talk to her dad about it, and then she would go solve the. So if you haven't read Nancy Drew in a while, it's a good time to pick up your old Nancy Drew books and go, I used to love Nancy Drew.
Oh yeah, definitely. And we're each tapping into that inner.
We're dancing into our inner Nancy Drew.
Yeah. The girls and I always reflect on Nancy Drew's life is pretty perfect. Like, really, she gets near-death experiences all the time, but her life is really exciting. There's always something happening. It's fun. So I think viewing our own lives is that we're definitely in some intrigue and mystery and lots of things up. And so being able to shift that and be like, wow, this is kind of epic. This is pretty incredible what we're living through and witnessing and experiencing all in this tiny little amount of time. Think about how much has changed since 2020. It's this is a condensed period of time of talk about transformation, massive transformation. So, okay. So, Anne, what else do we have? We're moving up to the full moon. We have all this Venus.
Moving up to the full, so we're exposing and seeing things. The light gets bigger. We have the sun opposite Neptune, which is the 14th tomorrow. So that helps you see past the fog. Sun trines Pluto on the 16th. So that's a positive. We've had Venus, we've had Mercury, we've had Mars. So the sun trines and he and Pluto make a plan. That's on the 16th. Mercury, we talked about, he's going slow because he's getting ready to retrograde. So he's adjusting his plans. He has a hard aspect on the 15th with the nodes of fate. So That's kind of a, do you want to be in this relationship? Do you want to be in this partnership? Do you like this person or not? And so there's an energy of no. And then he has an adjusting aspect to Neptune, where he's trying to get a new perspective on things. And so Mercury's going to form a fast finger of God over this week and next week with Neptune and Pluto. So there's fated choices on the 18th. Venus has a hard aspect with the nodes of fate on the 14th. So she gets all riled up, and then she goes to Mercury and gets him all riled up, which is why it's important when you hear something to say, well, what's your source on that? Or why would they tell you that? Why are they, I know they told you and you're all up, your knickers are in a twist, but why did they tell you that? What was their motivation? Now, sometimes they just let it slip because it's Mercury retrograde. So he's just telling tales. But other times it's done with deliberate purpose to get you to do something or to get you not to do something. So you want to watch, is it deliberate or was it on purpose? Like, what was the motivation? Scorpio, query the motivation and assume it could be this, or this. You don't know for sure. It's like when Rachel Maddow goes, watch this space. I don't know what's going on over there, but I'm watching this space. So watch the space because Mercury's got a story to tell us through the beginning of November. So he's going to give us some clues, and then he's going to go retrograde, and we're going to go back and put the clues in place, and then you're going to go forward. So if you saw the movie Sixth Sense, when you get to the end, hopefully, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, don't turn it off now. You find out Bruce Willis is dead. Well, of course, the kid talks to dead guys. And then you go back through the movie and you go, oh, he was dead. His wife was mourning their anniversary. He wasn't late for the anniversary dinner and she was mad at him. He was dead. She didn't see him. You went back and saw all the clues. Once you knew he was dead, it helped you revise the vision because you got the information to help you do it. That's the kind of stuff going on.
So, Anne, we're in the part where we think Bruce Willis is alive, though, right? Yeah. When is the deathbed secret going to come out? When do we actually have more of that?
End of October.
End of October. Okay.
And then we go back through and we go, they tricked me.
Wow.
Now what's happened with Shanahan, or however you say his name, now everybody goes, well, there's always a trick at the end, so they're sitting there waiting for the trick, but he does good tricks. So with Mercury, with Venus also has a square to Saturn this week. So she's in a little bit of a tussle with him and she's arguing with her dream. So this is a week when someone says to me, there's no way your dream can happen. You just do not listen to them and go do your dream. Anybody tries to throw water on your dream or tell you it's not possible, you just say, yeah, thanks for your input. Not listening to you. Have your own vision. Mars this week has got a hard aspect to Uranus. And the two of them are having a power struggle. And that's also happening on the 14th. So you hear the buildup. The 14th is big. It sets up a story for us to work with for the week. And then Mars goes into Libra on the 14th after she has this power struggle. And at that point, Mars is in Libra answering to Venus and Scorpio. So he's going to be very intense. And he's in Scorpio again for 2 months. He's in Libra. So the first part of it, he's answering to Venus and Scorpio. And then when she shifts into Sag, he's going to be more visionary. But right now he's going into private detect. He's being dispatched as a CIA agent to go figure out what's going on. And the dispatch happens on the 13th and the 14th. And then he goes into action.
So, Anne, whenever you're talking about the planets as characters and these little storylines, these aspects are alive in us, right? So there's, it's happening in the sky, quote unquote, but it's actually happening within us. So just notice these little aspects of yourself that are playing out these different stories. Yes. Okay.
So in your case, your daughter comes in and goes, Mommy, there's a thing going on at school. And you go, ooh, I think we need to put on our Nancy Drew caps and figure out what it is.
Right. And it might not be what it appears. But it's never the character you're like, oh, it's that one. It's never the obvious one. It's always, that would be too boring.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, remember in Wonder Woman when Aries was that weird guy that was setting policy? And I'm like, he's not Aries. But he was Aries. And she was like, okay, brother, let's get it on. It's your Wonder Woman, but you're like him, he's Aries. And he's like, yeah, I'm Aries. And so it's the energy of where we get a little tricked. This is one of those times where you get a little tricked.
Well, and I think the tricking, it's noticing where and why we get tricked. We've brought up two things today that I think are where and why we get tricked often. One is when we go into that emotional trigger and that wound, and we aren't willing to look at it and really understand what it is bringing up in us, where we end up blaming someone else for it and not looking. So that's one place we get tricked. The other place we get tricked is thinking we know. It's thinking we know what the answer is. And then we get tricked there too. So I think just being aware of those two things this week would be really powerful.
Really helpful.
Yeah.
And I do it. I read a lot of people, so I make an assumption about how something behaves. So I was reading somebody the other day, and, she was talking about her child, and, I looked at his chart, and I happened to like his chart. I was like, oh, this kid's really powerful, very strong, whatever. He's a Virgo. He's a good kid. And, and then her experience of him was very different because he was oppositional. He liked it the way he liked it. Well, he's running his moon Uranus in Aries right now. So that moon Uranus is, I'm going to fight with everybody. But he's actually a really good kid once he realizes he doesn't have to fight with people. But right now, as a little guy, he's like, no. And his moon kicks off in fire. It's a fire moon. He likes to fight. But it also is, he doesn't have to live like that, and he won't ultimately. But when he's little, so it's always an interesting energy. Like, I'm like, oh, this is a great kid. And then, and I told the story to her of, I have a friend who's got a pretty strong child. And when he went to preschool, she got called in because he was biting. And, he bit kids, right? Mm-hmm. And so she brought him home and talked to him. And he goes, well, Mom, I only have to bite him once. And then I go, and they give me the toy.
Oh my God.
And she goes, what do I do with that? I go, you just know this child is always one step ahead of you.
Oh, wow.
And you always ask him why he did it.
Right.
Because he's like, I don't have to bite him more than once. I just bite him once, and then I go, and they give me the toy.
Bite.
Huh?
A little warning bite.
A little, they know what I'm going to do.
Wow.
I have a stepsister that pinches. And she was little. She was a little short Taurus, and she would grab you and pinch your underarm if you were doing. Now, I met her when I was 30, and she pinched me a few times. But I thought, my God, like, you're a pincher. But, when she goes like this with her fingers, I back off. I just am like, you're going to pinch me. I'm not up for pinching. I am a complete wimp as regards pain. It's not, I always said, torture me and I'll give up the secrets. But she's a pincher, and she learned that because she had an older brother. That was the only way to get him to stop, was to pinch him. And so, we have these coping techniques for a reason. And what's happening now is our coping techniques are being brought up for us to look at and understand the underlying motivation for the coping technique, because there is one. And that's what Venus and Scorpio want you to do, is look, well, why is this happening? What's actually going on psychologically in there, to the point of the lady saying, I had all that therapy and I looked at my asteroids and I figured out a heck of a lot of stuff about myself.
What she said is she saw her shadow. Actually, that's the part. She was able to see these deeper motivations that were driving her that she wasn't aware of before. And so once you see the shadow, that's essentially you're putting the light of awareness on the shadow. It's no longer in the shadow, so it no longer can be running the show. And you actually you can start working with it. So there's so much power in that exploration. And I find that we really avoid it because it seems like it's going to be too scary in there. It seems like it's going to be too hard. It seems like it's going to be too messy. But there's so much richness. Isn't this where like buried treasure would be too? Right? Like, so there's buried gifts, there's buried treasure, there's buried power. And when we were little or whatever, we put it in a lockbox and we said, I can't deal with that. It's too much. It's too scary. It's too big.
Or it scares the grown-ups in my life.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times the church, the parents, the siblings pack it in. But when it lives in the shadow, it has its own little unlived life. It's bumping around in the closet. Remember the Edgar Allan Poe story, the tale of the telltale heart. Yes. He didn't hear, the heart was beating, right? And then you go the other way and you go, me and my shadow, right? And you watch like a Fred Astaire movie where he's dancing with his shadow. It's understanding the shadow is cast by light against a solid body, and then the shadow is on the ground. So when it's noon, there's no shadows, but at the end and the beginning of the day, the shadows are long. And in New York, we always, when the buildings get put up, we do a shadow casting. Where are the shadows from the building going to fall? Because it's going to affect the buildings that get the shadow from the tall building. So shadows are good and bad, but when they're unexplored or unnoticed or not paid attention to, that's when they get a power.
Right.
That's when they can act up, and you go, oh. But if you look at it and you go, well, like, who told me that was bad? That's me.
Right.
And if I don't have to like that part of me, but I have to embrace it. So last week, my shadow was up a couple times, and I was talking to a friend of mine who's known me since 1980. She goes, I can just hear the glee in your voice about this. I said, I know. I haven't, I'm always good now. I never get to be bad. And I was like, I'm feeling like I want to be bad. And she's like, oh, no. Now think about this. I'm like, I am. And I'm really excited about it. So you want to kind of watch where that pops, and then you go, because it's part of us. We have to honor it. And and then we can look at it and go, all right, I'll behave myself. But we at least have to think it, or we at least have to let it show up and go, oh, I know what you want to do. You're not going to get to do that now. We're gonna maintain. No, stop. And
Yeah, because if you don't look at it, then it's doing that anyway. It's seeping in. It's just like Christopher Renstrom, who does our weekly horoscope column. I know many of you tune into that every week. He posted one. He posts those like old comic strip sort of ones a lot, and it was a Venus and Scorpio one, and it was this man and this woman in this embrace, and he was saying, let's do things that make us embarrassed to look at each other in the eyes tomorrow. It's like, let's like do these things that we want to do, but then like probably tomorrow we're not going to want to look each other in the eye because we're so embarrassed about it, which is just, that's part of this energy though. It's like that, what you're saying, like that, the bad girl things in there, and giving them a healthy outlet, seeing them, but not allowing them to destroy everything unless it needs to be destroyed. Like and you're consciously wielding that power. Right. You're going, this needs to be destroyed, and I'm going to destroy it because it's time and it has to happen, which is sometimes true too.
Yeah. So think of the Grey's Anatomy scene where the Meredith Grey character gets naked with the guy. I'm drawing a blank on his name, and they have sex, and she picks him up in a bar, she brings him home and has sex with him. Then she reports for her first day of office, and he's her boss. Ooh. And she's like, oh, hi. And he's like, hi. And that's Venus and Scorpio, right?
Yeah.
That scene, I love that. I love that scene, because she was like,
oh, okay, this is going to get complicated.
You saw me naked and I work for you, right?
Right. Yes.
That's Venus and Scorpio, yes.
Yeah, it seemed like it'd be fun and frivolous and light, and oh God, this is going to get complicated.
It was just a hookup in the bar. We got a little naked. I was having a little tension before my new job, and now you're my boss? Oh my God,
Yeah. Okay, well, this is going to be an interesting week, huh?
It is. It's fun. Yeah.
So what's the theme, Anne?
The theme is I'm not gonna side with Chris. I'm gonna say, do something you'd be embarrassed to tell your mother about, or do something you might think. I was raised Catholic. You do something you might not want to confess to the priest.
Oh my gosh! Wow, we're gonna be sending everybody out to do this thing.
Well, it's just recognizing the passion is strong. Mm-hmm. Right. So when the passion is up and you see somebody being very passionate, you just go, there's a living example of Venus and Scorpio. So I do encourage you to kind of look around and see, the living examples of Venus and Scorpio. I mean, Jennifer Lopez looking really hot, attacked in an airport. Gallant Ben. Whoa. I mean, they had security, but he's the one that defended her. So watch for, and they were like, the knight in shining armor came to save him. And so we watch for that passionate intensity in good or bad ways. And so and that, again, remember, living astrology, we watch the astrology. When a story hooks into your consciousness, it's your story. It's somehow working with you on a deeper level. So when you're paying, like you were somehow tuned into Greece, I wasn't paying any attention to Greece. You texted me. I'm like, yeah, okay, but that was Venus in Scorpio. It's got, So we want to kind of honor, that energy and appreciate it from the perspective of the passion invoked in it, but also to recognize, because it's in its detriment, it can be a little harder.
Mm-hmm.
Venus is a little harder.
Charlene says, be naughty.
Be naughty. Okay.
Be naughty. That's cute. Cute way to say it. Okay. So, and then what would you say is the intensity scale?
I think it can be pretty high. Yeah. Because Mercury's slowing down, revealing, and there's a lot of oh my goodness, I didn't know that moments this week. So depending on how you feel about those. Now, truth be told, if you look back, you got the clue. Yeah. But now you may have the reveal and go, oh, now because there's something where you kind of know about it, but you're not really, you don't want to look. Yeah. And now it's kind of like, you got to look. Well, and don't shame yourself when that happens. You know, a lot of times it's like, oh, I should have known. How didn't I know? And then, we can be really hard on ourselves, but it's like, well, you didn't know because you didn't know. And now you know. Now you know. And now the picture looks different, and that's okay. You don't have to shame yourself for not knowing before. Right. And the other part, just to be careful with as working with other people, is because Mercury is answering to Venus in Scorpio, you can say things to people that unveil something from them. It helps them see something they hadn't seen before. So I'm always careful with Mercury and Venus in this kind of configuration, because I have a Mercury-Mars square. So I know I can say things that can reveal things to people that they can be upset about. So you want to kind of be conscious of, where you're, I don't know the right word for it, where you're going to communicate something to someone that they don't know. This is the week of unintended information too, where somebody says something to you and you go, oh, I didn't know about that. So I had gotten sent to me a tape of a woman who reacted very badly to President Biden last week, saying, we are really getting tired of you people not getting vaccinations, whatever he said. So she was ranting and raving on a friend of mine mailed it to me, ranting and raving, very funny. I am not going to go out on the street and get you money and bring it home to you. And then the phone rings and she goes, that's my boyfriend calling me, telling me to be quiet. And it was, I thought I'll send it to you after the show. I thought it was hysterical, but it was, she was just up. And then he's calling going, honey, you maybe don't want to put this on Facebook. Clearly, she was on a roll and he's like, honey, no, maybe not, but it was hysterical. And she was just in her full Venus and Scorpio glory. And when I mailed it to a few people, and one of them wrote back, I thought you got hacked. Like, why did you mail me this? And I said, I thought it was funny. Yeah. But so I totally get that Venus and Scorpio is when you kind of laugh at an off-color joke. And then you look around and you go, that was a little off color, right? Because it's, it's not to the person who said naughty, it's naughty, but it's funny too, right? Right. So you're saying if you are in a position where you could be revealing information that for you, like for someone that's going to be one of those, oh God, like that's a huge revelation, be kind. Like as much as possible, be kind in your delivery, and then compassionate for the experience that they're going to have after they have the information, because it's going to rock their world a little bit. Well, because remember, you're going to drop a little bomb in their world, right? Yes. And so you're gonna do it in a Mercury and Virgo. Well, didn't you see this? Right. You didn't pay attention to that, and you're like, no, I didn't. And now that you see it, now you have to figure out what you want to do with it. But then there's also the companion piece where information and the other person doesn't know it. So I got an email from somebody who recently found a relative on the internet. The relative found her, and her sister is a little bit like mad because she's friendly with this woman, right? And like, now you don't need me as your sister. And it's like, no, it's like, but that was what was said. So how do I react to it? But there's that little Scorpio, it's that territorial thing again. Oh, it's very territorial, jealousy. Yeah. Very territorial. So when you feel your because Venus and Scorpio is like, this is mine. The opposite sign of her is Taurus, and she's now, Uranus and Taurus is now answering to Venus and Scorpio. So Uranus and Taurus just got territorial. He just got territorial. And so he's like, I've been talking to you about this. Now I'm making you pay attention. I'm getting weary of this vaccination conversation, right? So you're kind of like, ooh, Joe, what happened to you? You know, so people have different reactions. I was like, ooh, Joe, look at you. And this other one was like, all right, don't tell me what to do. And I'm like, same speech, different reaction. Like everybody, you want to watch where you're reacting, where you get triggered, all important. Go delving in it, you know. And if your boyfriend calls and says, honey, I think you need to stop, stop.
Unless you're okay with whatever those.
Unless you're okay when you're like, and so this is also one of those times when this is one of these weeks are the weeks when people say something and it's recorded and they release it on the internet. So this is when, you know, we get sex tapes released. This is when we find out, you know, they said this behind closed doors and everybody sees it. You know, it's one of those weeks. So so it's big reveal. Get you all riled up, figure out what you want to do differently. You know, it's that kind of energy.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So we've done a lot of summarizing as we've gone along. I mean, it's like, and the theme this week is really clear. Like we were able to really just like hone in on this Venus and Scorpio thing because it's coloring so much of the other aspects and things that are happening. So it's like, that is definitely the overarching theme. So explore where that's coming up in your life.
And look at your Scorpio house because she's going through it, right?
Okay. Look at your Scorpio house. Also, there's something about the 14th. So keep your, like, circle that number on your calendar, the 14th. This is a big setup for the storyline that you're working with. And you're talking about some fated decisions on the 14th and the 18th. Yeah. But both of those dates.
This is when Nancy Drew gets the clue and she goes, ooh. And the 18th is when she opens the door and she goes into the room.
Okay. All right. So they're connected to each other. They're both big dates to circle and just pay attention to the storyline that's coming up for you. And don't listen to dream squashers. That's what I wrote down. Anybody who's like, you can't do that. You're not capable of that. That's not possible. Don't pay any attention to that. That energy's up, but you don't have to listen. Stay focused on your vision, what you have inside of you welling up that you know is possible. You're the only one with the instructions for how to make that actually come to life, by the way. So it's actually very natural that other people would look at it and be like, I don't know how you're going to do that, because they don't have the instructions, but you do. So just being aware of that. And astrology shows us that you're seeing it from your unique perspective. They can't see it. That's okay. They don't need to be wrong or bad because they can't see it. You just don't need to internalize that. Yeah.
And also because Mars is the last degree of Virgo, we're a little more prone to criticism, right? Because it's at the last degree of Virgo, so it's kind of hearing it a little more intensely. And Mercury is answering to Venus and Scorpio. So it's hearing the criticisms stronger, right? And so that's where we can get a little derailed by listening to the criticisms rather than saying, I hear the criticisms, I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to focus on the vision because that's what I want to focus on. Like, I get your criticism, but I take it and I raise you.
I take it and I raise you. I love that. It also can really have such an emotionally triggering thing for us. So again, that's going to be your opportunity to be like, okay, that person criticized me. That person said I'm not good enough, that I can't do it, that I'm wrong, bad, whatever they said. Where in me do I still believe that? Where in me do I still feel like that little child cowering in the corner going, no, I am good, or maybe you're right. So finding that place in you and embracing it, like you said earlier, like embracing it, loving that part of you also, but not letting it rule the show anymore.
And also turning to the Virgo planets and asking them, well, how would you improve it? Right?
Yeah.
So Saturday, my assistants wrote a play and she had the preview opening, right? And I get down there and I'm in the front row with my other Virgo friend whose birthday's in a couple of days. So we're sitting in the front row. So, and I've seen a few staged readings of it, but this is like a performance with an audience and whatever. There's a scene in the movie section in the play where they drop a bunch of balloons onto the stage. Well, they're on the stage now. And as the characters move around, the balloons move. So they're all coming to the edge of the stage. So I'm a Virgo. I'm sitting there with my friend who's a Virgo, and we're like, what's our job with the balloons? Right? What are we supposed to do? Should we push the balloons back on the stage? Should we let the balloons fall off into the orchestra pit in front of us? What's our job with the balloons? And the two of us were both kind of like going like, and I said, it's really not our job to worry about these balloons. She goes, I know, but I'm worried about the balloons. So you want to look at how you can fix it. Right? We want to look. And so as we were leaving, the sound and effect people were having a meeting, and my assistant Rose goes, oh, they're the sounds and effects people. And I said, well, when that balloon popped due to being in the heat, when they had the kiss, that was really effective. So you should keep that even if that balloon doesn't pop, somebody backstage should pop a balloon. It was very effective because then he kissed her, and then the balloon popped, and he turned around and kissed her again, right? So as I'm leaving, I said to those guys, keep the balloon pop during the kiss. It was very effective. Virgo helping.
Yes.
And so the Virgo planets, when they want to help, they want to help, they want to make it better. So you say to them, how do I make it better? You're criticizing me or you're critiquing it, but how do you make it better? And I was there, oh my God, I got a job with these balloons. I'm like, where do I get a job with balloons? But they're coming at me. Do I keep, should they stay on the stage or they just fall off? I don't know what they should do. So when you want to when you get that criticism, you get that energy coming at you, go, is my responsibility to deal with this? Or do I have to, is there another way I can handle it?
Yes.
Right. And so that's where the Virgo energies, they get this opportunity to decide if they want to or not. And that's the gift.
Yeah.
Do they want to do it or not? Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Anne, thank you so much. And we have so much to work with this week. I hope you're all tapping into that inner detective and you're going on some adventure, and we're going to find some secrets, and we're going to find more pieces to the puzzle. And speaking of, last week I talked about the tortoise that I found.
What happened to him?
Yeah. He found a home.
Oh,
and
okay.
It was from a family who had lost their tortoise 4 months earlier, the same kind. And they were so thrilled. They already had the whole setup for the tortoise, everything was perfect. So they had it all. I mean, it's a very unique pet to have. You definitely need to have your space set up. And so they had all that set up. And someone said, why don't you just bring it to the ocean where it belongs? It's because it wasn't an ocean turtle. It was a tortoise. It was a land turtle. It was a desert tortoise. And it was on a 1-lane road. I mean, it was definitely a dangerous situation.
It's going to get run over by a car. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, there's no question. So we have found it at a home. I know many of you were concerned about it, and we named him Thomas the Tortoise.
Thomas the Tortoise.
And I went through many different name options, but we named him Thomas the Tortoise, and he has a home. So that's good. All right.
And we like that.
Yes, exactly. And for those of you still interested in joining the Goddess Workshop, the Goddess and Other Asteroids, it's time. You'll get the live Q&A today. You'll get the second part of the workshop. You'll get the second live Q&A, and you'll get the recordings of everything. So you will not have missed anything. And that's astrologyhub.com/asteroids.
And the Q&A is at 3:00
Eastern today.
In an hour, and you can tune into the Q&A, and it won't, you buy it now, and the next hour you can queue into the Q&A, and then you just have to watch the thing on Monday.
Super fun.
One from Thursday last week.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody so much for being here. Thank you, Anne, for sharing so much goodness for us to work with this week. Thank you everybody for being a part of our community. And as always, for making astrology a part of your life. We will catch you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.
On the full moon.
Yeah. Ooh.